Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name is Ian, I'm Ian the Reader, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the 12 series that I've started so far in 2022. Yes, I said that right. I've started 12 series so far in 2022, which is absolutely bonkers, considering the fact that I've only read like 38 books or something like that. And the sad part is, I mean, it wouldn't be so weird if like I had read 12 books in a series. That's one thing, but to have started 12 brand new series in the year 2022, like 4 months in, is kind of sad, honestly, because it just means that I'm not changing, because I am a serial series starter, but a serial series not finisher, to be honest. But anyway, the point of this video is not to berate myself for starting all these series. Instead, I just wanted to quickly talk to you guys about the 12 series that I've started so far. I'm gonna go ahead and do these in a ranking, actually. I'm not gonna do like reviews exactly, because that'd be a really long video, but I'm going to rank these from my least favorite to my favorite and let you know whether or not I plan on continuing this series at any point in the future. Before I jump into those though, it would mean the world to me if you would like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I post videos occasionally. I don't really know what I'm doing as far as my schedule goes. I've been real busy, I won't lie to you. I haven't even been reading as much as I normally do. It's just been a pretty wild time, but I'm loving talking to you guys on here as well as on Discord, and yeah, please stick around. Without further ado though, let's go ahead and jump into the books. So coming in at number 12, we have a book I did not like at all. It is House of Earth and Blood, which is the first book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. I almost said Mass. Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, I didn't like this book at all. I didn't think I was gonna love it, but I hoped that I would enjoy it more than I did, to be honest. So I buddy read this with my aunt. I'll go ahead and link her bookstagram down in the description, but neither of us were big fans of this book. This was kind of the final nail in the coffin for me when it comes to Sarah J. Maas. I've had a love-hate relationship with her works in the past. I just kind of feel like I've grown out of them, to be honest. And if you enjoy them, that's awesome, I'm glad you do. But for me, this book was utter garbage. I did not like it at all. I think I gave it a 2.5 star upon completion, and I'm thinking like a 1.5 to 2 now. That's just where I'm at. Will not be continuing on with this one. Coming in at number 11 is one that I really hoped I would enjoy more, and that is Age of Ash by Daniel Abraham, the first book in the Kithamar trilogy. I think it's gonna be a trilogy. But this is a book that I was sent by the publisher. Thank you again so much, Orbit, for sending me a review copy. I really wish that I'd enjoyed it more, because I've heard such good things about Daniel Abraham's works, particularly the Long Price Quartet, as well as his involvement with The Expanse. He was the co-writer for the Expanse series, and I really want to read both of those, and I'm not going to let the fact that I wasn't a big fan of Age of Ash deter me from reading those. I'm just a little bit disappointed, to be honest. This book was it didn't really do a lot for me. It felt very middle of the road. It felt very much like the plot never really took off. I know that it's kind of a Abraham first book in that it's supposed to like really build up the characters and there's big payoffs later, but to be honest, I didn't care enough by the end of the book to feel like continuing on. When I completed this book, I did say that I was going to consider trying the second book. At this point, I'm only going to do that if the second book gets like fantastic reviews, and if I did do that, I would probably have to go back and reread book 1, because it was honestly pretty forgettable. For me, that was like a 3 stars. Upon reflection, it's probably a 2.5. All right, at number 10, we have one that shocked me that I didn't love it, and that book is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This was a book, I say it shocked me that I didn't love it, but I had tried to pick it up and read it 2 other times previously and had gotten maybe somewhere between like 20 and 30% in and just could not get past that point. And I did push myself to get past that point, partly because Pete from Ponderings of Pete and I were supposed to be buddy reading it. And I did finish it, but it just didn't work for me. I think this one really does come down to personal preference though, because a lot of people love this book and this series. Just for some reason, I couldn't connect to the characters. Maybe it was the fact that a lot of it was written in second person. I couldn't connect to the world either though. So it was one of those things that as I was going throughout the story, I was really trying hard to care, but I didn't. And honestly, I was a little bit confused as to what was going on at other times as well. And by the time I got to the end of the story, I honestly just was not impressed with my experience. Now, the writing itself is very well done, and the world is one that is fascinating on paper, but I don't know what to say. I'm glad that everybody else loves it. For me, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be continuing on with the series, unfortunately. It's a 3 star. In the number 9 spot, we have City of the Lost, which is the first book in the Rockton series by Kelly Armstrong. This was a book I randomly picked up. Honestly, I was in a reading slump back in March last month, and I still kind of am. It's like something that I am apparently in an ongoing struggle with, but I picked this up and it was a great book for the time. It was very quick, very much grabs your attention from the get-go, and it was something that I didn't really expect to enjoy, but I didn't expect to hate it either. It was something that I got what I needed from it, to be honest. It is a mystery thriller series, the first book in a mystery thriller series, but the setup is different than usual because apparently it revolves around this city of the Lost is what the cover says, but I mean, it's not really that. It's more, there are individuals who need to run away or need to assume a new identity or just need to disappear, basically. And so there's a city for them, apparently. There's an organization that helps them disappear. It's like witness protection, but it's not because they've witnessed a crime necessarily or anything. It could be because they've done something terrible or, you know, there's a lot of different reasons you could end up there. But yeah, the setup is kind of weird because a city like that, I mean, I assume it doesn't exist. Maybe it does. I mean, I guess I wouldn't know because I'm not trying to disappear. But yeah, it was a bit far-fetched, but I enjoyed it, and it was what I needed at the time. I do think that I'll continue this probably when I come to a point where I need something to do what the first book did for me. Something that'll just grab me quickly, something that'll hold my attention, and that I can get through really quickly to hopefully break out of a reading slump. So I will continue the Rockton series at some point. Not soon necessarily, but I will continue it at some point. For me, the first book got a 3.5. Okay, coming in at number 8, we have the Green Ember, and I can't remember the author's name. This happened when I was talking about it in my wrap-up too, and I didn't write it down, and I'm terrible. It's right here. This is the author's name, and this was a book that, again, like I read, not really because I was in a slump. I think I picked this up because it was the end of the month, and I wanted to finish one more book, but I didn't know what. Or maybe it was the beginning. I don't remember why I picked it up. Okay, I just picked it up. and it is exactly what it looks like on the cover. It is a fantasy book, but they are rabbits. And that's it. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed myself. I got what I expected to out of the book. It was a fun middle grade series, but it had a pretty good fantasy plot that took me by surprise, actually. I will say that, because it was a plot that if you removed the rabbit factor, it would be just a pretty good fantasy story, to be honest, too. Like, honestly, I think he just wrote it as they're rabbits to kind of make it more approachable to kids, maybe, because it's middle grade, but it's just a fantasy story. They just happen to be rabbits. So I had a good time with this, though. I will definitely continue this when I'm wanting a middle grade fantasy series. For me, this was a 4-star. All right, at number 7, we have A Winter's Promise by, wow, I think her name is Christine DeBose. I should look up the names, but I'm not going to because my phone is my camera and I would have to use that to look it up. So yeah, her name is right here. I think it's Christine DeBose, though. And I really enjoyed this book. This is another book that I buddy read with my aunt, and we both felt the same way about it. I think we both give it 4 stars. This is a really interesting story, though. So this is a translated work, and it revolves around this very intense and strange political situation. Essentially, the world has been split up into these floating spires that are like separate like islands in the air, essentially, and each one is its own kingdom, sort of, and there's this arranged marriage that comes about between the main character and a rather bitter male character, and things just go from there, and the world is very fascinating. I thought that the world building was really well done, and that you get to kind of explore one of the tower things. It's not a tower, it's like a floating island. I don't know what to call it. You get to explore that one a little bit, but then you go to the other one and it's just so vastly different that it feels like you're really getting to see these different worlds, and I really enjoyed that. In addition to that, the magic is very unique in this as well. I'm not going to get too much into it because I feel like it's a little bit spoilery. At least I think it's more fun to kind of discover how the magic works as you're reading it. But I had a blast with this, to be honest. I am definitely looking forward to picking up the next book. I don't know when, maybe this year. This is one that I'll say maybe this year I'll pick up the second book. It's a quartet and all of them are out, so I could just read the whole rest of the series and I'd have a good time probably, but not gonna pick it up just yet. At some point this year, hopefully, though, and for this one gets a 4-star. Coming in at number 6, we have something that I'm ashamed of. Not because I read it, but because I didn't continue on in the series like I originally planned to. Oh well. Hopefully I'll read it soon. I really want to. The book I'm talking about is Greenwriter by Kristen Britton. This is a book that I was a part of a read-along going on Josephine's channel. I'll link her channel down below. She's awesome. You should totally check out her channel if you haven't already. But yes, Fina was doing a read-along on her channel, and she still currently is, for the Greenwriter series, and I totally thought that I was going to be down to read the whole series this year, and I would love to. I just haven't, and I'm sorry. But yeah, the Greenwriter series is one that I really enjoyed the first book. It balanced whimsical fantasy with like very grim fantasy very nicely. There were certain scenes and chapters and portions of the book that were so lighthearted and just like pleasant that it felt like almost like, not like Disney necessarily, but just a really enjoyable and comfy kind of fantasy. And then you get into later parts and it gets really bloody and violent and crazy. And so it was just a really fascinating experience to read a book that balanced those two so nicely, and I really enjoyed that. I will definitely be continuing it, maybe soon. Maybe I'll try to catch up with the read-along. I don't know. I think they're going to be starting book 4 soon, so I need to read book 2 and 3 pretty quickly, but we'll see. I will definitely continue this year, though. Okay, so this is where things start to get a little bit weird, and the reason that I say that things start to get a little bit weird right now is because my number 5 spot is not the most, like, compelling series to continue necessarily, but it is one of my favorite books of the year, in that I would probably put it in my top 3 books I've read all year, but I don't feel compelled to pick up the second book necessarily. And the book that I'm talking about is The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. Now, the reason that I say that I don't necessarily feel compelled to pick up the next book right now is because the first book, The Pillars of the Earth, which is like almost 1,000 pages, follows a wide cast of characters that you grow to love over the time that you're in the book, or hate. Some of them I hated a lot. But with this, the story is a part of a series, which is 4 books now because there was a prequel, but each one, they take place like centuries apart, I'm pretty sure. So none of the characters are involved. I don't know if they'll be mentioned necessarily, maybe like in historical context, I guess they'll be mentioned, but they're not really in there anymore. And so I don't feel compelled to pick up the second book because the story of the first book was comprehensive enough and complete enough that I really feel like I've gotten all that I need to right now from this story. And it's historical fiction, so I can say from the world as well, because it's history, you know? I mean, it's fictionalized history, but it's not like a fantasy or anything like that. There's no new world to explore. It's just a continuation of the history of this cathedral that's built in the first book. So for The Pillars of the Earth, the book itself, I'm giving it 5 stars. I loved it so much, but I'm not feeling compelled to necessarily pick up the second book anytime soon because it is even bigger than the first book, and I feel good with the first book by itself. Okay, number 4, we have Sebastian de Castell's The Traitor's Blade. That's the first book, or maybe it's just called Traitor's Blade, but it is the Greatcoat series. I had so much fun with this series, and I cannot wait to continue on. I keep meaning to, but I'm gonna have to get the audiobooks for it because I don't have access to the ebooks or physical books anywhere, so I'll just have to use an Audible credit, but that's fine because the narration was great for the first book. But wow, this book was so much fun. It was a lot more fun than I expected. I don't really know what I expected, but just the characters and their chemistry and the banter and the wild, terrible situations that they get themselves into was just so entertaining. I had a blast reading the first Greatcoats book. I actually vlogged my experience reading that. I'll go ahead and leave the link to that video down below if you would like to hear more of my thoughts on the book, but I will absolutely be continuing with this series at some point this year. I almost used one of my Audible credits for it the other day, but I'm gonna wait a little bit longer before getting book 2. Very excited to continue in this series though. All right, at number 3, we have the Will Trent series by Karen Slaughter, which I really enjoyed the first installment of. The first book was Triptych, and I read that back in March as well when I was needing more mystery thrillers. It was awesome. It was gritty, it was dark, it was twisted, it was mysterious. There were some huge plot twists that like totally got me. And what more can you ask for from a thriller? I had a blast with it, and I'm super pumped to continue on with the rest of the series. I have the physical book for book 2, and then I can also get the audiobook. I know Cloud Library has it from my library. I can get the audiobook there. So yeah, we'll definitely be continuing on with this soon. Probably the next time that I feel the urge to read a mystery or thriller, I'm gonna pick that book up because 1, I really enjoyed the first book, but this isn't just like, it's a weird thing where it is a first book in a series, but it's kind of like a sequel series in some ways to a previous 6-book series that Karen Slaughter wrote and that I binged in like 3 weeks last year. But I'm still calling this the first book in a series because it technically is, and those series don't converge until I think 3 books in, so I'm very eager to get to that point of convergence because the way the first series ended, like, I need some answers, I need some conclusion. I need some peace that I do not have yet, so I will definitely be picking this series up. I highly recommend it if you love a good dark thriller. It's really like more procedural because it's always following like detectives and they have cases, and each book kind of contains its own mystery, although they do sometimes build upon each other as well. The first series is called the Grant County series, the first book of that being Blindsided. I will say these books are so dark, like really dark, really messed up. Like there were a couple times, especially in the second book of the first series, that I almost had to put it down. But if you can tough through some seriously messed up stuff, this book series is really fantastic. Triptych by Karen Slaughter was a 4.5 star, by the way. Okay, my number 2 spot is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. I am so pumped to read the second book, and guess what? I am reading the second book in May. So if you missed it, we buddy read this on my channel and on the Discord over the month of April. We all really enjoyed it for the most part. I think Nico had some pretty serious complaints with it, but overall, the rest of us really enjoyed the book. Not a 5 star for any of us, but we all enjoyed it, and we are very eager to pick up book 2. So a lot of us are going to be continuing on reading the series in May. So the answer to the question, will I be continuing the series? Absolutely, in May. And if you want to join us for that, you totally can. We'll be buddy reading it in the Wizardly Duo Discord, which I will leave a link to down below, as well as probably having a live stream discussion on my channel. We hadn't discussed whether or not we were going to do that, but I think we probably will. Yeah, so I super enjoyed The Grace of Kings, though. I will probably film a review for it, especially because this book has been so involved in my channel, just to get all of my thoughts out there. But this was a really great start to a series, and it's an interesting one because it concludes in a way that you could technically just read the first book if you wanted to, but the second book is supposed to be so amazing, and I'm really excited to see the bigger view and the grander scope of the world that we get, as well as the magic system, or like the gods in this story, as well as the technological advances that are going to come in book 2. I'm just super excited. I'm really pumped, courtesy of a lot of my friends on Discord. They've been pumping me up for book 2. Very excited, definitely going to enjoy reading that next month. The Grace of Kings was a 4 star for me, maybe like a 4.25, and like as I see it in the context of the whole series, it may go up as well, but 4 star for now. And my number 1 spot, my favorite start to a series so far this year, unfortunately only has 1 book out because the first book just came out in, I think, February, maybe in January. But that book is The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. Wow, this book blew me away. I honestly feel like this book was kind of made for me. I know it wasn't. I know Richard Swan wasn't like, I'm gonna write this book for my buddy Ian, but it felt like it because this book so perfectly balanced fantasy and mystery that it was like the best time. Like, it was so much fun. Because if you pay attention to what I read on this channel, I read a lot of different stuff, but the genres that I read the most are fantasy and mystery thriller. And so when a book can just bring my 2 babies together for some magic, it's like, what? This is perfect. And it was. I had so much fun. This book is like Sherlock Holmes a little bit, but with a lot of violence, some great fantasy elements, some seriously dark political intrigue going on, and some great characters, honestly, and their interactions were fantastic. Our main character isn't the Sherlock person, she's the Watson type of person, in that she's watching her mentor do all these amazing things, and she's kind of growing throughout the story. And man, I just had a blast with it. I really did. I am dying for news about book 2. If it doesn't come out like early next year, then I'm gonna be very disappointed, but it's fine. I'll wait, but I cannot recommend this book enough. The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan was fantastic. And that is it. Those are the 12 series that I've started so far in 2022. I am a little bit embarrassed that I've started all of these and I haven't continued any of them. That's the worst part. Like, if I had read the second book of any of these, then I wouldn't feel so bad. But these are all of the series that I've started this year, and I haven't continued any of them yet. So, but I'm about to, because we're about to read The Wall of Storms, the second book in the Grace of Kings series, or the Dandelion Dynasty, in May. So I will resolve this, but I'll be better. I will. Thank you guys so much for watching, though. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what series you've started this year and are super excited to continue. And if there was a series that let you down this year as well, I would love to discuss those things with you guys. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!